In this position, I'm going to go over how to checkmate with the king and queen when your opponent has a knight. This type of endgame, it's actually pretty tricky when you are in time pressure, just because the knight limits a lot of squares that the king has access to, and also there's so many different types of forks that can happen. I want to go really quick over a quick scenario that can happen in a game, and then I'm going to give you a couple of tips to help you win this endgame even when you're in time pressure. So, let's start, for example, checking the king, moving up, trying to advance, check, king coming closer, knight check, we need to move away. You could see here again, the knight checks us again. We have to move the king, let's say we move over, knight here, then check. Here you could see why it's becoming a little bit difficult, because the queen being on b5, the knight also covers the squares a5 and c5, and there's not that many options that you have here with the king, except to like c4 maybe, or a4, and obviously the best move is moving the queen. But you could see if you want to advance the king, which is a typical move, trying to get the king closer so you could push his king to the edge of the board. Now knight to d6 is a fork, and this game is now drawn. And you could see that this type of position could actually happen, especially when you're in time pressure. These positions happen a lot. So let me go over a couple of tips to help you win this endgame with not that much stress or worry being forked and losing a queen. So first, let's take a look at a king versus a knight. One thing that's very important to know is that whenever you move the king on an opposite color of the knight will not be able to attack you on the next move. The knight always attacks the opposite color that he is on. So if he's on a dark square, he is attacking white squares on the board. So therefore, let's say if I move to d3, I know that there will be no moves that the knight can attack me, just because from a dark square the knight will have to move to a light square, and from here the knight only attacks dark square. Therefore, if you move your king on the opposite color that the knight is on, you know for sure that there will be no forks on the next move. The knight will not be able to attack your king. If you move next to the knight on an opposite color than the knight, you will never be able to be checked on the next move. So for example, if I move here to d5, the knight, it will actually take him 2 moves to do that. He would have to jump to e8 and then to f6. So it's always good to move on an opposite color of the knight when you are attacking the knight, because you know you're not going to be forked. If you attack the knight on the same color that the knight is on, for example diagonal either to e5 or c5, you got to be super careful, because the knight can attack you on the next move. So for example, if your queen was somewhere over, let's say g5, and having the knight here would be a move that makes sense, getting the king closer to his king to checkmate. Well, here moving the king on e5, the knight could come to f7, forking your king and queen, and now you lose your queen. So it's very important to know that whenever you attack a knight, or whenever you want to get closer to his king, always try to move next to the knight on the opposite color, because then there is no fork. The king will not be able to be attacked on the next move, and even moving something like this, you're not in check. You can move your queen away and then make progress. Another thing that I want to mention is that, let's say the king is here. The furthest away that you can move from a knight is 1 square diagonal. Obviously, if you want to make progress and you're trying to come closer to his king. So for example, if you come here to f4, you could see there's 1 square diagonally between you and the knight. Now the knight, it will take him 3 moves to attack that square. He would have to come somewhere like knight to e8, then to g7, and then let's say to h5, and then he'll be able to attack you. So it's going to take him 3 moves. Even if he goes another route, for example like c4, let's say b2 and then d3. It will take the knight 3 moves to attack that square that you're on. So that means you are pretty safe, at least for a little bit. And if you have the queen, obviously you could make progress. It's very important as you're trying to make progress to try to get this position one square diagonal, because that will give you a little bit of time to get your king closer to his king, or using your queen to be able to shrink the number of moves that your opponent has. And one more thing that I want to mention also to be careful is the same color as the knight with one square in between. Even here the knight can attack you on the next move. And like I said, if you had a queen somewhere maybe lying over here, you know, he would be able to fork you and actually win your queen. So be careful not to step on the same color of the knight next to the knight unless it's one square diagonally. This is the best place for the king with one square diagonally in between. It's going to take the knight 3 moves to attack that square, but definitely be careful if you step on the same color with one square in between on the same rank, or even here, because he could attack you the next move, or the same color attacking the knight on e5. So now let me go over the position that I had initially, and I'll play against the computer, and I'm going to try to use these tips as I will win against the computer. Okay, so here we are into the original position that we started in the beginning. So let's try to use those tips now to be able to checkmate the king. So let's start with queen to f4, queen to e5, just trying to gain more space. King to d5. I know if I move to d5 there will be no check from the knight. Alright, so the knight moves up. Maybe queen to e6, just to try to shrink the king to the last rank. Alright, king moves up. Let's try to limit the king to the last rank. Okay, knight to e7, and I want to move the king to e6. I know there's no checks there, so there we go. Okay, so here he made a silly move. He gave us the knight, and we obviously will capture and win this game. If you liked my video, please subscribe and don't forget to check out my new website, masteryourchess.com, where you can learn, practice, test, and master your chess knowledge.